All right, now this is just a disclaimer here, and that this is called improv, so it's building up a comedy routine that I'm working on because it's a way of dealing through trauma, and it's a way of looking at the funnier side of life sometimes, especially when things are extremely dark. And so it's a theater performance. So take everything said here with a grain of salt. This is not the opinion of the establishment. This is not something that should be misinterpreted by anyone. Because if it's based on historical figures, it's very loosely based. So any associations that you might make with people living or dead is just part of the routine. Because this is an experimental thing. I mean, this is obviously not a production grade studio. This is just my point of view. So if it is beneficial to you, if it's entertaining for you, if you do find value in it, I'm greatly satisfied knowing that somewhere, like again, audiences are rare. Some people don't like comedy. Some people hate real comedy. Some people just they want to shut down venues just left and right because they don't like how jokes are told. So this could get canceled. Okay, that happens. It's happened to much funnier people than me. Believe me, I'm not even close to funny. So if you feel you're getting bored halfway in, if you need to just tap out and listen to some classical music instead, do it. Don't let me work yourself up in any way because I'm working through these issues, which is why it's improv comedy. Now back to the program. Thanks for tuning in. So I was thinking the other day and reviewing some of the things that I've said thus far, and although critique is sometimes unnecessary or sometimes necessary, I think it is much better to think in terms of future systems, what they can be, and what type of new technologies we can use to get to better civilizational conditions, and also to secure not just the socio-economic, political, and military spheres, but to ensure that they will be functioning in an optimal fashion for years and years and years to come. And yet, one of the first principles we need to accept is the principle of adaptation, which is to say, we have institutions, but they've failed their original mandates, and so although it's very depressing, it's very this and that. You can think of it as a beautiful human body that has now turned into a corpse, like a living corpse, and it's tragic. But let's think in terms of what this institution did, when it did it, and that it's not unsurprising that things grow old and then decay. And then it's best to just bury them, just get rid of it, and go back to the original intention. What did this institution intend to do? And how can we perhaps do that in our times using modern technology and a whole lot of uncommon sense, such as thinking in terms of comprehensive cultural security, which is to say, if we want to have, and this is also something, I don't want to put this directly on Ukraine, although Ukraine is absolutely the catalyst for potentially a Western exterminate, being the West being exterminated. So it's the in with that backdrop in mind, and thinking in terms of rebuilding Ukraine and possibly Russia and the West as a whole by discovering principles that can make a victory, a military victory in Ukraine, a true victory for the entire world, which is to say that all those lives that were lost were not in vain, but in fact were instrumental in getting people to wake up to the music that we've been fiddled to for the at least the last, I call it the last lost 30 years. So this for people like data specialists, take everything from just let's say 1990 to this present day. Now, when we will stop with that, I don't know. I think we should just continue monitoring the metrics. But certainly, all personalities in the cultural fields should be put into big data and reviewed for keywords that reveal ideological contamination and bias. Because they use words. They use words to signal, and they use words to create a program. Like again, climate change, containers, look in terms of containers. Climate change is one. The environmental movement was one. You should look into the fishhook operation that was started. The Google fishhooks. And then you'll see what the subversive elements were trying to do and actually did accomplish. So where's all this climate change BS coming from? How was it commandeered for other highly toxic and stupid ideas and things like that. And then you'll be able to historically accurately place these personalities. So you can also look into all the books, the courses, what social sciences, all of that. Just pull the plug on it. Build it back perhaps, but incrementally with the understanding that these were warlike hostile actions, and they've gone on way, way, way too long. Okay, they should have been stamped out back in the day, but the problem is this is how war is. So it's just like sending waves. They send the first wave, that only maybe one gets through, then they build up that position, and then they reflect, how did we lose that there? Who did we attack again, 50 people at once instead of just one? How did we not make it there? And then they do comparisons. So it really is, it's like a military operation, but it's a cultural operation that leads to exterminationism. So there are actions and words and ideologies that tie them all together. And with big data and then other miraculous tools, you can put two and two together. And then, of course, you can look at these people in a much different historical light. These people were not heroes. They were not social advocates. They were not anything other than war operators in the cultural fields. Their anthropology is crap. Their psychology is crap. The reasons for doing things are crap. They're usually emotionalized, focused on subnormal psychological profiles or creating subnormal psychology. They're big into ideological conformity tests. And so again, once you identify these things, you can put bing bang boom. And I hope a lot of the dunces of today will be very surprised, but I'm also hoping that they will have the integrity to understand that this is the truth. This is what happened. This is not genuine culture. This is not modernity that they cooked up. This is not the direction the West should have went or will go in the future. So a lot of stuff is just going to get trashed. And it's a great thing. It's a good thing. Embrace it. And curate. We don't need a lot of nonsense. Just curate. Just take the best and work with that. Develop that. Cultivate that. And do it on an individual and a social level. It's one-on-one. Things making you extremely angry, things causing social division, the war between the sexes, all of that. lawfare, all these, again, these cast of lawyers, with new technology, they just don't exist in the future. They don't. They're not arbiters of justice. They're not. They're just gone. And just like the typewriter, the computer got rid of the typewriter, they're going to get rid of lawyers. And there's going to be also no bankers. They're gone. The whole financial class is going to be just replaced with something else. And it's going to be real easy. It's going to be real easy. It's going to be better than before, a lot better. Because these pools of influence that these people had that were disproportionate to their, or not commensurate with their moral principles or loyalty to the people that they more or less subject in the economic and political realms, they're not in any way a positive force for the West. They're absolutely a negative force. So courts will be done away with in the current form that we now have them or had them. And also, big tech, you need to start right now mobilizing. All these big techs and big companies, they're all vulnerable to subversive attack, and a lot of them already are. Engaged in multiple subversive activities. Just look at what they've allowed to be promoted on their platform, and it's not just Cambridge Analytics. That's funny. Like, that's when they notice. It's like a big, stupid political fiasco type of thing. That gets a little bit of notice, but the other stuff, let me tell you, for a culture security specialist, you're going to be seeing things. It's going to be like drones flying around in the dark. You put on these glasses, you just see them flying and shooting like crazy. And that's the thing. You can reverse engineer the attacks to where it's coming from. But these big platforms, you need to start decentralizing now if you haven't already. You need to control your own servers. You need to look into the people. You need to look into the IT. You need to look into the managers. You need to look into the money. You need to look into anything that, especially any fields that have any type of cultural influence. Those people need to be 120% correct. And if any type of crazy crap shows up on their platform and they're not managing it correctly, like subversive moderation, for example, suppressing information like this, but promoting utopian exterminationism in a variety of forms, well, then you know what the management is. These people are actually committing cultural crimes, which are much far greater than physical crimes. They're psychological crimes, which, again, if they go unabated, will lead to the extermination or extinction of the culture. You'll have the geography. They'll call a place Ukraine, or they'll call a place the same country name unless they decide to change it, like in Burma. There's some military dictator wakes up one morning and says they're going to call the country something else. And then historians will try to piece together when the country actually did fall apart. But that's not really what the West wants to be doing. Okay, we want to catch it before it gets that far. And it's really easy to catch if you've got a nose that smells the crap that they're trying to proliferate. Because again, it's a dehumanization program. It justifies them also using violence, mass violence against you and your entire country, because your country promotes immorality. That's what they tell their own people. Like, they deserve it. These people are Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, that's what they say amongst their own people. To you, they're the ones that send you $1 million to be the new face of some type of immoral campaign. Yeah, those people profit by that. That's also something you need to realize. These people that take that money and are just expressing themselves, they're criminals. They're engaged in a criminal enterprise. And they have accomplices. Just like people robbing a bank, it's not just the bank robber, it's the driver, it's the money launderer, it's the fence, it's an entire organized criminal organization. So yeah, oh, we're just watching sports, but all these athletes didn't just get picked from anywhere. They're not picking for the best athletes, although that's what they claim they're doing. Like they have these false historical narratives, and then the final spectacle is a disaster. It looks horrible. It looks alien. It looks ridiculous. Well, why is that? Well, because it is that. These people aren't on your side. They're not well wishing you. They're spitting in your face. They've co-opted the venue. So venue co-option. There's so many different ways they can attack. But let's just focus for 1 second on the political side. Political candidates. Look, we're talking about democracy, right? Everybody likes democracy. Blah, blah, blah. We got technology now. So how about opening up all the positions to fair and rigorous competition, which also means not these people will not just be judged on their rhetorical skills, how well they can polish their suits and ties and speak the Queen's English or the Ukrainian version of it. But where the hell do they come from? Where, what is their family? What did their grandfather's grandfather do? Like all that needs to be transparently available. What work did they do again? Who did they work for? Where did they get money? Where were they flying on planes to? What countries have they visited? Where do they have relatives? Where do their allegiances lie? Are they, what's going on? Because if they're not from the country, if they're not from, their story doesn't check out, that's something that needs to be put to the voters. I say let them try it. It's not like, I mean, in a way, let's say if we have 10, there should be 10 candidates for every position, and they need to be transparent. And then they need to be put on camera, and they need to be given a couple of questions, and then people need to see how they react, and then there needs to be different levels of vetting. Vetting is very important. So you need these positions open up to the general public. You need transparent information. And then you need non-corruptible voting mechanisms, which, you best believe me, that is possible today, even though the politicos claim that's impossible or they've got it covered. No, they don't got it covered. They don't. So this is something when a politico class that's corrupt comes up and says we're not going to do that, well, then it's back to the revolution of dignity. Oh yes, we're stopping everything. We're going to do a general strike until we get voting mechanisms that again are peer reviewed, maybe even with international bodies, but also maybe not. These international bodies, how about this World Health Organization, let the whole COVID-19 thing, they dropped that damn ball. Why? Because their electoral processes were corruptible, and so they were gamed. And now you've got this guy in there for who knows how many years. He's still riding out there. Who's going to come as the next one if the political mechanism is corrupt? So that's an institution. Pull the plug on it. Start another one from the ground up, and that's the one that legitimate actors will recognize. Until that possibly gets gamed. But see, then if you get a fiasco like the one we just experienced, then that's the plug pulling incident. So it made it to that point. Forget about it. Now you would hope it wouldn't get to that point, but if it does, that's just the way it works. When your Lada blows up, when the engine blows up, do you decide you're going to repair that thing? You just junk it. Get a new car. There's better technology out there, right? So all government positions are open to the public, and it will be announced, and there will be mechanisms for vetting people. And these people better be transparent. And if their information, if it comes out later that they falsify their information, that is perhaps, I mean, it's certainly grounds for incarceration. but it might even be more than that, because these people are trying to commit mass murder. That's the way it should be thought of. It's not a light crime. It's like, oh, here they are. Look at this. They're trying to throw a horse race. Isn't this quaint? No, they're trying to throw the whole damn country. Everybody, old people, young people. Look at the reality of the citizens of Bakhmut. That's what these people are trying to make happen in one form or another. So it's not a slap on the wrist. It might even be like a lifelong prison sentence. So depending on how serious the misrepresentation was. Of course, we also have these, these are also forms of attacks. They come in and say, oh, he didn't declare $5 on his tax return. You get these lawfare lawyers that get paid millions to do that. Those things, for example, they don't get off the ground. There has to be a committee that decides whether or not something is actionable or not, but it needs to be taken seriously. So before we had a free press, look at this. Nobody from the Enlightenment thought that the free press, once it got out of the bottle, the genie got out of the bottle, that it would be turned back into some type of monopoly. They didn't think it was going that way. See, a lot of people think, like, in terms of human progress, everything's just going to go up like this. And it's a naive assumption. It doesn't. Sometimes it goes like this, and then the bad people get in, and it goes like that. So, what is the best thing about politics, or should be the best thing about politics, is adaptability to circumstances. Oh, we had these nice neighbors. Then this mafia type organization took over without telling anyone. They claimed they were, let's just say, Hungarians. And now they're positioning nuclear rockets on our border. Like, what? Or these people claiming to be Ukrainians have just decided to, like, decommission all of the power plants for wind energy that's not going to cover industry needs. Some type of cockamamie idea that's going to cripple the economy and the industry. No, actually, no. That's when, again, you need to these revolutions of dignity. That's going to have to be the final card that the people play against corrupt organizations. So it's not going to ever go away. So it worked with Yanukovych, but it's going to work again too for people that don't get that these adaptations, they're essential. They're essential because without these adaptations, you don't have a victory in Ukraine. You might have a stalemate where the killing stops for a couple of years, like in 2014. You still got a wrecked society. You got MPs sitting there. You got oligarchs. You've got all different types of voting mechanisms that don't work, vetting mechanisms that don't work, cultural institutions that don't work, economies that don't work. That's not winning. That's a complete failure. So whether or not it'll happen in Ukraine, who knows? They've got really, really, really good chances to do it. But it needs to happen basically everywhere. The entire West, I consider, Ukraine's part of the West. Ukraine is European, absolutely. But these things need to happen in every Western country. And every Western institution needs to be reviewed by cultural security experts. And if there's rot, it needs to be gone. It needs to be next like that. And I mean entire colleges, universities. You could do something like this year, there's no courses. There's no courses because everything's shut down till we can find some people that can teach some things that are actually useful and valuable. And unfortunately, because of these warlike conditions that were neglected on the socio-economic and political fronts, that it's just 1 year, that's not a lot of time. 2 semesters, or what, 4 semesters, who cares? keeping young people from having lifelong disabilities, ideological disabilities, it's worth it. It might be closed 3 years. It might be closed indefinitely. How about that? We don't need all these damn universities that teach a bunch of nonsense. We don't. No way, Jose. And that also goes for companies. What are these companies producing in forms of propaganda? And how is that related to their product? And who are their damn shareholders? And how did that happen, that this is the way they're presenting themselves? And all of these types of other nooks and crannies where these ghouls and goblins have embedded themselves. All that needs to go. We don't need your widgety wonks. And well, guess what? If we're importing anything from any country, we're going to look at that company and we're going to look at the country. And if they're promoting Western exterminationism, we don't need your damn product. Your widgety wonk, your coffee, your bananas, your this, third. No, you just come on a blacklist like that. Don't need it. Shows up at the port, it gets impounded or sent back or burnt or sold for pennies on the dollar. Because this is going on. This has reached a crisis point. That's how we need to look at this. It's reached a crisis point. And crisis is opportunity. It's opportunity to get better and to adapt. And if there's one people in the world that knows about adaptation, it's the Ukrainians. So why not let this be the catalyst and let Ukraine adopt new political systems and, again, new platforms, decentralize all, get away from this big tech nonsense, get away from these monopolies. Start looking into these companies and what they're producing and what they're signaling and what their employment contracts look like, what they're paying too. Paying in taxes and paying their workers. What do those working conditions look like? Dangerous conditions, and then the boss is driving around in a Ferrari or something. Like that. Don't need them. Pay them a severance. Why not? Don't. It's not going to be just pure appropriation or something like that. Pay them out. Why do these, this is the other thing, why do these damn countries not have enough money when they're taking all those damn taxes? Where the hell is the money going? And why aren't a lot of these industries that are just cash cows, why are they not nationalized and managed effectively? Why not? Why aren't they paying their workers a decent wage and also providing some decent services? Like, especially if they have children, or all of that also needs to be, cultural security specialists need to go in there. You can't just leave children to any old type of circumstances. And if there is any problems on that level, big time consequences, big time. You set up the conditions, you set up the system, it can work. It definitely can. It works in farming, it can work in politics and in the economy. But what we have now, it's grotesque. It's almost vomit-inducing. It has not. Again, the last 30 years of complete and utter stagnation. And it shows, it stinks. Just imagine like a pool full of crap that's been sitting around for 30 years. That's the equivalent of what we have in the political realm. Again, you lawyers, oligarchs, right? People in it for the money, corrupt, organized crime everywhere, like real organized crime in the courts. Stinks to high heaven. Stinks. So, and yeah, unvetted political candidates being paid by oligarchs that have some type of, again, manipulative PR campaign that a cultural security specialist would see 1,000 miles away. They don't become president. They don't. Right there. If somebody is pulling those types of hijinks, their whole organization, everything gets shut down for doing that. Everybody involved in that gets shut down. They don't get any damn parades. They're not the ones handing out medals for bravery. Are you kidding me? That's obnoxious. So this next vote, let's see some changes. Why not? You know, it's not like history's going to stand still because we're all shell shocked from how bad things have become in such a short period of time. No, we need to scramble, adapt. These people stink. The MPs stink. So it does matter who comes in there next. And they need to be vetted a whole lot more. And no excuses. There's no historical narratives that justify any of that type of bullshit. And these historical narratives, again, cultural security expert sees them a mile away. Put that in big data. Who were using these historical narratives and how? How did Ukrainians become Nazis? That's a freaking unsolved mystery, isn't it? And then go to some ridiculous country like Germany and say, who's a Nazi here? And watch 10 people say, oh, I know, and point like this. So the fifth column is really a thing. It does exist. Look into Spain before the Second World War. And who was behind it? These people, they glorify Stalin. Why would they do away with the fifth column when it was when it's done such valuable things for them in our time? But it hasn't done any valuable things for you. It certainly hasn't for Ukraine. And Ukraine's the future for us all. If their payouts end up getting turned into realities. So just think about that one. These people that are proud to be fifth columnists and know who Nazis are. These people, they stink. Stink. Okay? So none of that. None of these remembrance days, none of that. Because that's where they proliferate. Because that's where they like to take the moral high ground. Because, we have something that's indisputably bad. So let's turn that into, let's weaponize that. And then put ourselves at the top of some type of moral pyramid. So no. Doesn't work anymore. It's been played out. It's a farce. So when this regime falls, all of their little tentacles need to be stamped out and crushed. Because believe me, those tentacles will be revived by their big dragon brother in the east if they haven't been already. Because they're looking for every little chink, every little loophole, every little crack and nook and cranny and corrupt politician they can possibly find to continue their world extermination program. Don't think it can happen. Look at all the colonies in Africa that were okay, more or less, given the circumstances at that time. Are they any better now? Like, how are things going down in Sudan right now? Do you think, how long is it going to last till Ethiopia is the same way? You got their buddies in South Africa and all that nonsense. That propaganda ride we in the West were on since the 80s is now being completely and utterly discredited, including all of their fake profits. Because it was just an operation, that's it. Regime change. So they got a bunch of, it's a black hole now of criminality. There's no secure naval bases there. So what does that mean? Does that mean more piracy in the next 10 years? Does that mean regional conflicts? Probably. Some mass starvation. It's not better. We have this historical change. The triumph of the righteous and all that. People, it's a game to these people, right? And here's the problem: they're still around. And again, use that big data. Go back to check out their positions on all of these horrible occurrences, and then you know what you're dealing with. These people are consistently ideologically exterminationist. And yeah, they should be discredited. They should be excluded. People who supported that, if they're rolling around Ukraine, you should just pull their passports. You're not a citizen of this country. You're not. You're part of the International League of Skunks. So get stepping. I'm sure one of your buddies from the international is going to support you in some way, because you're not walking around here as some type of moral paragon. You're a complete and utter fraud. It's completely and utterly discredited, and yet we have this disconnect between public personas and what they've done in the past. That needs to change too. Accountability on the political level. These politicians mess up, like Yanukovych saying, "Oh, he's going to scrap the trade deal." Revolution of dignity. Till those people scamper, because that is the impunity that these criminals will go to if there's not pushback by the public. And I'm so glad that the Ukrainians understand that, but it's not ever going to end. It's a constant battle. So just put on your helmets, your battle gear, because it's going to be like that forever. Okay, but the good news is victory is sweet. Victory is sweet, and it is palpable. It's real. I want to see an Odessa that nobody's ever seen before. I want to see a new Kiev, like everything. I want to see the entire architecture. Everything needs to work. I want to see real universities. I want to see real industries. I want to see real progress. I don't want to see no utopian bullshit anywhere. I don't want to see no subversive, no garbage, nothing. And if it really does work, believe me, some Russians will see it and they'll say, you know what, these guys, they figured it out. So maybe we can ask them, we can get on our knees and pray that they would come and do the same thing in our country. And not the opposite of that, a discrediting campaign. Immorality, ugliness, stupidity for high-minded goals. No, that's not how it works. These are stooges. The ones that are even mildly excusable are the paid ones. The unpaid stooges, the useful idiots, it is horrifying to see these people that are working against their own interests so fanatically, because they've been inverted or agitated to take this position by a bunch of skunks that have a psychological program for them. So that is my message for today. And I really do hope in the next elections, a lot of these skunks that didn't think there was going to be a war, that they finally retire forever, especially if they're related to the law profession, that where courts are famously known not to work. That would be like car mechanics that break cars and then they're going to run for political office on top of that. That is incredible that is tolerated in this day and age. So they run again. There's not enough candidates. Revolution of dignity until real people come in there that care about what they're doing and are genuine and are actually from the place, going back long enough so that it's legitimate. And then again, having enough candidates, not these bottleneck, here you go, 2 pieces of crap, take your vote. No, that's not the democracy of the future. See, when we had functioning societies where we weren't as undermined as we were, that could have worked. Today, sorry, nope. It's not redundant enough. There's not enough choice if there's only 2 choices. Or how about this? 1 choice and then a fake second choice, like somebody that they play a puppet that is complete incompetent or boob. So, oh, I guess the Erdogan wins again, right? His opposition is just a bunch of clowns. So no, that is not acceptable. They pull an election like that, it's illegitimate. Revolution of dignity all over again. Thanks for listening.